Imagine a world where the average height isn't 5'9", but rather a colossal 10 feet. Picture the skyscraping humans, the everyday giants amongst us. An intriguing thought, isn't it? It's a scenario that's bound to tickle your curiosity, to stretch your imagination to new heights. So come, let's journey together into the realm of the extraordinary. Now brace yourselves as we delve into the world of giants. In this alternate universe, the first thing you'd notice is the environment. The infrastructure of our world, designed for people with an average height of about 5.5 feet, would have to undergo a dramatic reimagining. Imagine the scale of the change required. Buildings would need to be constructed taller, broader, and with reinforced materials to bear the weight and size of 10-foot-tall humans. Doorways, staircases, elevators, everything would have to be upscaled. And we are not just talking about homes, but hospitals, schools, offices, restaurants, and every conceivable public space. The transportation industry would face a similar upheaval. Cars, buses, trains, and planes would need to be redesigned to accommodate the increased size of passengers. Roads and bridges would need to be reinforced to withstand heavier traffic. The cost of this transformation would be astronomical, and the impact on the economy would be significant. The construction and transportation industries would boom, creating a surge in employment opportunities. However, this comes with its own set of problems. The demand for raw materials would skyrocket, putting immense pressure on our already strained natural resources. The energy requirements would also increase, leading to higher consumption of fossil fuels unless we make a concerted effort to switch to renewable sources. And then there's the environmental impact. The increased construction and transportation needs would lead to a rise in carbon emissions, exacerbating the already critical issue of climate change. Deforestation would increase as we scramble to find the space and resources to build our supersized world. The ripple effects of our growth would be felt across the board, from the increased demand for food and clothing to the strain on our healthcare system. The world would have to adapt in unforeseen ways to cater to our new size. The world as we know it would be transformed, but that's just the beginning. This is a glimpse into a world where humans stand tall at 10 feet. But as we'll see, this would only be the tip of the iceberg. The biological, social, and global implications are far-reaching and complex, painting a picture of a world that is dramatically different from the one we know today. Growing to such heights isn't as simple as it sounds. The biological implications of being 10 feet tall are immense and something we can't overlook. Firstly, let's consider the increased need for food and oxygen. The human body is like an engine, and just like a bigger engine requires more fuel, a larger body would need more sustenance. A 10-foot-tall human would have almost twice the body mass of an average person, which means they'd need almost double the daily calorie intake to maintain their energy levels. Imagine having to eat 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, and 2 dinners every day. Not to mention, our lungs would have to work overtime to supply enough oxygen to the increased muscle and tissue mass. Then comes the stress on the heart. Our hearts are designed to pump blood to an average-sized body. But if we were to suddenly grow to 10 feet tall, our hearts would have to work much harder to pump blood to all the extra body parts. The heart would need to grow bigger and stronger, which could potentially lead to heart-related health issues. Finally, let's not forget the changes in the human skeletal and muscular systems. Our current bone structure is not designed to support a 10-foot-tall body. Our bones would need to be thicker and stronger to carry the extra weight. The same goes for our muscles. They would have to be bulkier to move our larger limbs. But there's a catch. The law of physics, called the square-cube law, states that when an object's dimensions are increased, its volume and weight increase faster than its surface area. This means that if our height were to double, our weight would increase 8-fold, and our bones and muscles might not be able to support this increased weight. So growing to 10 feet tall isn't just about being taller. It's about an entirely different biological structure, with a bigger heart, stronger bones and muscles, and a lot more food and oxygen. Our bodies would need to undergo drastic changes to survive. Now, imagine looking up to have a conversation with someone. That's the reality we'd be facing if humans grew to be 10 feet tall. It's a shift that would have profound social implications, altering our dynamics, our identities, and potentially giving rise to new forms of discrimination. Firstly, consider the changes in our social dynamics. We're accustomed to a world where height is a variable, but not a drastic one. Suddenly, we'd be living in a world of giants, where a simple conversation could feel like a tennis match, with our heads bobbing up and down. It's safe to say that our interactions would become a bit more vertical. And what about our sense of identity? For many of us, height is a significant part of who we are. It's one of the first things people notice about us, and it can shape how we see ourselves. Now imagine that component of your identity amplified. It's not just about being taller, it's about being taller than everything. How would that change your self-perception? Would you feel more powerful, more intimidating, or perhaps more isolated? Now let's talk about discrimination. We like to think of ourselves as fair, but history has shown us that we have a tendency to treat those who are different with suspicion or even outright hostility. If humans grew to be 10 feet tall, would we see a new form of heightism emerge? Would those who are only 6 feet tall suddenly find themselves marginalized? It's a troubling thought, but one worth considering. In the world of 10-foot-tall humans, the social norms we take for granted would be upended. Everything from the way we communicate to how we perceive ourselves and others would change. And while it's fascinating to ponder, it's also a reminder of the power of perspective. In this hypothetical reality, our height becomes a magnifying glass, revealing the biases and prejudices that lurk beneath the surface of our society. The social fabric of our society would be stretched to new heights. It's a dizzying prospect, and one that challenges us to consider how such a fundamental change could shift our social landscape. So, what would all these changes mean for us? As we've explored, a world of 10-foot-tall humans would bring with it a cascade of consequences, both challenging and potentially rewarding. Life as we know it would be turned on its head. Our cities, our transportation, our infrastructure, all would need to be reshaped and redesigned to accommodate our new towering forms. Our homes would have to be larger, our vehicles bigger, our clothes longer. The world would have to grow with us. But it wouldn't all be a Herculean task. This seismic shift in human size could also be an opportunity for innovation. We'd need to come up with new methods for construction, new designs for transportation, new ways of producing and distributing food. We'd have to rethink our entire approach to life from the ground up, and with those challenges could come benefits. Perhaps our larger size would lead to longer lifespans, greater strength, or enhanced capabilities. Maybe we'd develop new ways of communicating or collaborating, driven by our need to adapt to this enlarged existence. In essence, we'd be pushed to new heights in more ways than one. We'd need to evolve not just physically, but also socially, culturally, and technologically. Our size would change, yes, but so too would our perspective, our understanding, our world. In this world of giants, we'd be forced to adapt and evolve in ways we can hardly imagine. From the buildings we live in to the very bodies we inhabit, everything would change. We've journeyed through a world of giants, where our homes, our cities, and even our biology would have to transform to accommodate our towering 10-foot selves. We've seen the immense shifts that would occur, from the design of our infrastructure to the way our hearts pump blood. We've explored the social repercussions, the potential for both unity and division in a world where height is no longer a marker of difference. We've also delved into the potential consequences, the challenges, and the opportunities of living large. But in this grand exploration, we must remember that change, especially of this magnitude, is not without its tribulations.